Hello and welcome to Movie Recap. Today I am going to recap romance and drama movie The Name in My Heart. The show opens up with our main character, the young and beautiful Hwan. She narrates that it's her 7th day of breakup and she is locked in a cupboard with her first crush from high school, Liangxi. Inside the cupboard, Liang tries to get closer to Hwan, but their friends open the door before he can do anything. Later, after the party is over, everyone leaves, and Hwan is left alone to return home. Right then, Liang stops his bike near her and offers her a lift. Without thinking twice, the girl gets on his bike and the two drive away. After a while, they stop at a park and here Liang asks her about her ex-boyfriend. When Hwan replies that she's not interested in her ex anymore, Liang suddenly proposes to her. This takes Hwan by surprise and she slams back a can of beer. She then comes closer to Liang and begins kissing him. Following this, they go to his apartment and spend a romantic night together. The next morning, when Hwan finds herself in Liang's apartment, she starts panicking. Liang enters the room and makes it clear that they just kissed last night and nothing happened between them. This makes her heroine feel somewhat better, and she leaves the apartment. However, she leaves her bracelet behind. After a few minutes, Liang notices it and calls her to come back. In the next scene, when Hwan arrives to meet Liang, she finds him talking to another woman and flirting with her. She then angrily approaches him and asks him about her bracelet. Liang takes her inside his apartment and tries to come closer to her again. However, Hwan stops him and suggests he just hand over her bracelet. Reluctantly, Liang goes to his room to search for the bracelet but fails to find it. He then realizes that the cleaning lady might have thrown it in the trash can and begins searching for it there. Unfortunately, Hwan notices him and laughs at his awkward position. Just as she's about to leave, Liang returns the bracelet and also confesses that he likes her. Hwan blushes at this and says that from the day she met him, her life has become more cheerful. Later that night, when Liang returns home, he starts messaging Hwan about an upcoming weekend trip. Right then, he gets a message informing him that his mother is in very poor health, and he is required to leave the country to be with her. The following day, Leon goes to the bakery to buy a cake for Hwan but finds her busy on a date with her ex-boyfriend. Though Hwan is there to talk to the guy about their final project and plans after graduation, Liang assumes that she is seeing him again and leaves disappointed. Later, Hwan meets Leon and tells him about her approaching graduation. The latter passes a smile and hugs her, hiding the tickets he bought for their vacation. Following this, they visited an amusement park and hung out for a while. All of a sudden, Liang asked Hwan to close her eyes. He then takes out a gift box which contains a letter and hands it over to her. Then, without saying anything, he leaves. After a few seconds, Hwan opens the letter and learns that Leon has left. He has told her to find someone else and move on with her life. Cut to a few years later, and Hwan narrates that she didn't go to college according to her parents' wishes but instead secured a job of her choice. She has also rented Leon's old place and is not willing to forget him anytime soon. One day, Hwan arrives at her office and joins her co-workers. Bored from work, her co-workers plan to go out that night and party. Initially, Hwan declines the invitation, but after a lot of persuasion, she agrees. Later that night, when the group is partying and playing a game, Hwan loses multiple times and is made to chug a drink. In the middle of the game, she feels lightheaded and walks away. Some drunk dude notices her and approaches her from behind, trying to take advantage of her. Fortunately, a guy who looks exactly like Leon intervenes and takes her home. At home, a tipsy Hwan assumes the guy to be Liang and starts kissing him passionately. The following morning, Hwan wakes up and immediately leaves after finding herself in a strange apartment. Meanwhile, the same guy who helped Hwan the night before walks into her office, and it looks like he's the director there. Sometime later, Hwan also arrives, and when she is told to speak with the director, she gets shocked to see the same guy. Inside the main office room, after a while when they are alone, Hwan approaches him and suggests he stopped lying to her and reveals that he is Leon. However, he angrily denies it and asks her to calm down. In the next scene, after office hours, Hwan returns home, wondering how two people can have the exact same appearance and behaviors. Lost in her thoughts, she twists her ankle and falls to the ground. Fortunately, Leon arrives there to help her, and she makes him carry her to her apartment. Once there, she reveals that it belonged to her ex-boyfriend. Leon doesn't react to this, and Hwan suggests he stayed for dinner, despite having an injured leg. Hwan manages to cook different dishes for him, specifically making seafood, as Liang was allergic to it. Hwan wants to find out if the guy is really her ex-boyfriend. Initially, Leon eats all the seafood without reacting, but when he leaves to return home, he throws up. Hwan watches this all from nearby and is convinced that Leon is actually Leon but has no idea why he's lying to her. Later, she starts to believe that Liang left her to let her grow in her career and be an independent woman. The next day after work, Leon and Juan meet and hang out. There, she abruptly kisses him on the lips and thanks him for protecting her all the time. She also tells him that the kiss is only for special people in her life, and he is one of them. In the next scene, while Juan is walking to the office, Leon approaches her and asks her to get in his car. He mentions that he's leaving the country on a business trip and wants her as his personal assistant. This makes Juan very excited, and she immediately does as asked. She can't leave a sight on the trip and needs to follow his orders afterward. In the hotel room, Juan attempts to sit on the bed beside Zed, but he stops her and asks her to sleep on the couch outside the room. However, to her surprise, when she wakes up, she finds herself sleeping on the bed beside Zed happily. She starts caressing his body and later gets ready for work. During work, Juan gets touchy with a male model, and seeing this, Zed gets a bit jealous. He then calls her and suggests she behave more professionally with the male models. At the same time, one of the models invites her to swim, and she immediately agrees. Juan changes and asks Zed to tie her back laces. Surprisingly, instead of tying them, Zed pushes her to the wall and leans to kiss her. However, he is interrupted when he receives an emergency call and leaves. At night, when Juan walks out of the hotel to search for Zed, she is attacked by a guy who tries to kidnap her. Once again, our hero arrives in time to save her. After handing the culprit over to the police, Juan begins tending to Zed's wounds. At this moment, he confesses that he's actually Leon. When Juan inquires about why he left so suddenly, he replies that he had thought of taking her, but when he saw her so focused on her studies, he decided that he shouldn't disrupt her life. Juan breaks down, and the two head to Leon's apartment. As soon as they reach the apartment, Leon tries to kiss her, but a girl enters the room searching for a cream she left. Leon introduces her as his ex-girlfriend, and Juan is shocked to hear this. Enraged, she leaves the place abruptly. The next day at the office, Leon's ex-girlfriend, Sue King, walks in and tries to make Juan jealous. She calls Leon and invites him to join her, however, he declines her invite and stops in front of Juan on his bike. Our heroine happily hops onto it and leaves. On the way, she suggests Leon stop dwelling in the past and live his life to the fullest. The following morning, Juan notices a picture of Sue King and Leon together and gets angry at the latter. She ignores him all day, compelling him to approach her and clear the confusion. Leon finally reveals that Sue King is the sister of his best friend who passed away recently. Liang had promised to take care of her, and that's why she's always around him. Hearing this, Juan understands the matter and decides to visit Sue King, who has recently fallen ill. Soon, they arrive at Sue King's apartment and prepare porridge for her together. This makes the girl jealous, but there's nothing she can do about it. The next day, as Juan is making her way out of the office, it starts raining. At the same time, she bumps into a handsome guy. Being the kind of girl that she is, Juan offers him her umbrella, saying that her boyfriend will come to take care of her soon. This leaves a positive impression on the guy, and he keeps staring at her. At home, Liang seems upset about the case of Sue King's brother's death and wants to fulfill his last wish with utmost dedication. Juan also stands beside him and expresses her support with whatever he does. The scene then shifts to the office, where Juan is approached by the manager. He then asks her to represent the company well in front of their client, the director of Z Capsule, Boss Shu. Shortly after, when Juan enters the meeting room, she notices the same guy from before. He is none other than the director of the company, Shu. Juan doesn't know how to react, but she breaks the silence by returning the umbrella she gave him the other day. After this, Juan finally begins explaining her project, and she listens to her, smiling and gazing at her. Meanwhile, Liang notices all of this from his office and immediately calls Juan to meet him. As soon as she arrives there, he puts her on his lap and tries to flirt. However, right then, Shu enters the room, and Liang sends Juan away to complete another task. After she leaves, she comes closer to Liang and tells him that he will take everything from him. He is actually there for the acquisition of the company. At home, Liang tells Juan about Shu's real intentions, and hearing this, she starts thinking of ideas to stop the acquisition. At the same time, she's still embarrassed about what she saw the other day when she was with Liang in the office. Later, when Juan arrives at the office, she meets with Shu and asks him to keep everything he saw the other day a secret. He agrees to do it, but asks for a favor in return. He mentions that he wants to confess his feelings to a girl and asks Juan to arrange everything for him. She agrees and suggests he bring the girl to the office party that evening. Following this, Juan arranges everything, but when she brings Shu into the room, he surprisingly proposes to her. Juan is completely speechless and feels awkward in front of everyone. But after a while, she confidently rejects his proposal and hugs him, saying they can be friends. Right then, she notices Liang looking at her with angry eyes from the other room. Juan runs to him and apologizes for her behavior, but Liang refuses to listen. Sad, she walks out of his office alone. The next day at the office, Liang again comes closer to Huan and tries to kiss her. However, once again, she arrives there and interrupts them. He also walks up to Liang and suggests he stay away from girls who are not willing to do what he wants. Suddenly, Huan feels a pain in her stomach and leaves. Later, she brings her some medication and suggests she take better care of herself as he tries to get close. Huan tells him that she has a boyfriend and that he needs to stay away from her. In response, he simply caresses her hair behind her ears. Unfortunately, at the same time, Leona Ryan lives there and sees everything. At home, Liang approaches Huan and scolds her for getting near Shu. But after a while, they begin laughing as if nothing happened. Here it's revealed that the two have planned everything from the start. They quarreled intentionally so that they could extract a reaction from Shu. After the discussion, Leon carries Huan to the bedroom and they enjoy an intimate moment. The following day, Shu meets Huan and tells her that he's opting out of the acquisition of the company. He says the main reason is Huan herself. However, he also goes on to mention that if Leon doesn't sign the acquisition papers, he will go bankrupt and lose the company. In an evil tone, he tells her that he will take everything from Leon, and there is a surprise waiting for her at the acquisition announcement that night. Afterward, Huan goes straight to Leon's office and asks him if he's on the verge of bankruptcy. When our hero confirms this, she consoles him, saying she has enough money in her bank account for the two of them to live a decent life. In the evening, when it's time to declare the acquisition, it's mentioned that Liang has actually acquired Shu's company for 100 million. Shu is shocked to hear this, as he has been raising the price of his company recently. Here it's revealed that Leon reported the sudden price raise to the board of directors, and in response, they gave him the decided valuation of the company and also removed Shu from the position of CEO. Enraged, she walks away from there, vowing to take revenge. In the next scene, Leon can be seen waiting for Huan to arrive at a fancy restaurant where he has been planning to ask her to marry him. However, when Huan arrives at the parking lot, she gets kidnapped by Shu, who drives her away in a van. Su King notices all this but doesn't stop Shu. Instead, she calls Liang and informs him that he will never get to see Huan again. Su King then follows the van and makes her way into a factory-like place where Shu is keeping Huan. Here he mentions that he likes her and is just taking what belongs to him. He then prepares to head out, explaining that they will leave the place the following day. As soon as he leaves, Su King arrives and lures Huan to come behind her. She lies that Liang is waiting for her nearby. Following this, Su King takes Huan to a cold storage, pushes her against a sharp edge of a wall, and knocks her unconscious. She then locks the door from outside and walks away. Right then, Shu notices her doing so and enters the cold storage to save Huan. Unfortunately, Su King returns and traps them both inside. Shu somehow manages to wake Huan and suggests she call Liang and inform him about their situation as there is no signal. Huan climbs on his shoulders and reaches out the vent. Fortunately, the call connects, and Liang arrives there in no time. However, when he enters the room, he finds Shu putting on Huan's coat because of the cold. He then carries Shu on his back and brings him outside. At this moment, Su King admits her mistake and requests Leon to come back into her life. However, he rudely replies that it will never happen. He then asks her to voluntarily turn herself into the police. In the last scene, when Leon visits Shu and Huan at the hospital, it's revealed that the two are brothers who have the same father but different mothers. Their father had assigned a different company to each of them, and Liang suggests that he talk to their father and get him back the company he deserves. The show ends with Liang and Huan visiting an amusement park, like at the beginning of the story, with a smile on his face. He proposes to her, asking her to be with him for the rest of his life. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.